My grandma was a single mom. She raised my mom and my aunt from the time just my mom was a baby, all by herself. She was the breadwinner. She always provided for her family, but most importantly, she was completely in charge of the safety of herself, my mom, and my aunt. I remember the story she tells me about one night there was someone trying to break into their house. This is kind of a scary thing when you are a single mom and you don't have anybody there to protect you. So my grandma, she said that she sat in front of that door with her registered firearm and hoped that she wouldn't have to use it. Thankfully, she did not, and everyone was safe. But if an emergency had arose, she was prepared, and she was ready to protect her and her family. I do not believe that abolishing our Second Amendment right and taking away our right to bear arms will help anybody, especially not my grandma in that situation. I do not believe that guns are dangerous. I believe that guns protect U.S. citizens from an overpowering government. I believe that guns aren't dangerous, that people are. And lastly, I believe that firearms are a means of self-defense for law-abiding citizens. As I previously stated, guns help protect U.S. citizens from an overpowering government. As it's stated in our Second Amendment that was written in 1789, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Our founding fathers put this in the Constitution or the amendments as kind of like a fail-safe or a safety net. Our founding fathers fled from a country with an overbearing government. The way that they were going to prevent this was putting the power into the hands of the people. We have the right to form a militia if the government ever becomes too powerful. Taking away our firearms takes away that right and that fail-safe that is put into our amendments. Secondly, guns aren't dangerous. People are. When someone gets shot, it's because there's someone on the other end of that gun pulling the trigger. I don't believe that gun safety is taught well either. I remember in summer camp when I was a little kid, I had BB gun class and we were taught gun safety. We were taught not to point a gun at someone unless they were trying to harm you and you intended to shoot them. Nowadays, kids are sent home, expelled, suspended, and whatnot just for simply biting a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun. I believe that if we taught better gun safety and respect for guns rather than fear, we would have a much, much better chance at preventing accidents from happening. Accidents do unfortunately happen. There are misfires and unintentional shootings that happen every year. According to Aftermath.com, thus far in 2020, there have been 92 deaths by accidental shootings. But having said that, also this year in 2020, there have been 16,650 car accident deaths. Just because driving in a car is dangerous, it doesn't mean that we're going to take that right away from people. People know the risk when they get behind the wheel. But to help ensure some safety, they have, you have to get your permit, you have to get a license, you have to register your tags, everything like that. You will get pulled over and get a ticket if your car is not safe, if you have a headlight out, anything like that. Also, we have the NRA that was founded in 1871 by 2 U.S. Civil War veterans as a recreational group. This group was designed to promote and encourage rifle shooting on a scientific basis, according to BBC.com. So there is regulation inside of our guns. You can't just get a gun and shoot off your back porch if you live in city limits. There are rules, and there need to be, to keep it safe for everybody. But just because something is not completely safe and there are risks, it doesn't mean that we should take it away from them. And lastly, firearms are a means of self-defense for law-abiding citizens. This comes from the argument that if you take guns out of law-abiding citizens' hands, you're not taking them out of criminals' hands. They are completely unconcerned with the laws, and all you're doing is making a bigger risk for people who do follow the law, because they will give you their guns because you've told them they can't have them. But the bad guys who are the threat and the reason why people think guns aren't safe, they're not going to get rid of them. So you're not solving a problem, you're creating a bigger one. D.N. Dunham said on Core.com that gun control only limits those who strive to obey and honor the law, and could even be seen as putting those people at a disadvantage. D.N. Dunham also stated that he was a UK citizen And in the UK, there is gun control, and they don't have a huge gun violence issue there. The problem, though, is they have a much larger knife violence issue in the UK. So that goes to prove that if you take away guns, people are going to supplement and commit crimes in other ways other than just guns, because criminals want to commit crimes with whatever avenue you give them. D.N. Dunham also brought up the fact that in Switzerland, just about everyone owns a gun there, and they also have very, very low gun violence, because if you break into someone's house, you know that they have a gun and they are going to shoot you. So it kind of causes criminals to think twice before committing a crime, because they know that if you try to hurt somebody, you're going to get shot, because everyone is highly trained. Anybody who's in the military, they have the option to buy their gun, and then the government will give them ammunition for it. So there's kind of two extremes there, with the UK and Switzerland, and the US being kind of in the middle. We do have a good bit of gun regulation in certain areas of the US, and those areas tend to have worse rates of gun violence. So in conclusion, guns protect US citizens from an overpowering government. 2, guns aren't dangerous, people are. And lastly, firearms are a means of self-defense for law-abiding citizens. I advocate for you to support our gun rights, established in our great country's Constitution, to protect our lives, liberties, and pursuits of happiness. I fully believe that suspending this right would set a precedent to abolish many more of our inalienable rights in the future. So I advocate for guns, and I ask you to as well.